Hello, angels. Welcome back, Music Corner, and today we finally put 2024 to rest, musically at least. After a top 100 singles video, a top 100 albums video, a worst hits of the year video, we are now leaving things off, concluding with a best hits of the year video of all of these songs that managed to either spend 2 weeks in the top 20 of the Billboard Hot 100 this year, or alternatively land on the year-end Hot 100 for the first time this year. These are my favorites. It doesn't really get any more complicated than that. If you've seen my best lists in the past, the methodology has not changed. So why waste any time? These are my favorite hit songs of 2024.
You wanna guess the color of my underwear? You wanna know what I got going on down there?
We're going to get into the top 10 list, but first I want to rattle off 5 honorable mentions, songs I liked but didn't love enough for them to make the list proper. And if you came to this video directly after the worst hits video with the intention of being angry at me, allow me to extend you an olive branch of sorts. Though Chaperone's cringe and campiness can definitely get on my nerves, if she plays her theatricality and drama with just a little bit more dexterity, she can make for some really great moments. Though I'm not sure I could ever love a Chappell song quite as much as I love Casual, I do think that Good Luck Babe arrived at the perfect time to capitalize on her rapidly rising popularity, and that's because it does so much of what she specializes in really well. It tells this great lesbian story where Chappell isn't afraid to show off some of her vulnerabilities in the face of compulsory heterosexuality. But then it has this awesome, soaring, dramatic hook that seeps confidence and puts the girl in question in the song directly in her place in a really, really excellent, really memorable moment. She can be hit or miss for sure, but it's tracks like this that make me kind of happy that Chaperone is poised to be one of our bigger pop stars, at least of the next couple years. So you guys know about the rap beef that happened this year, right? You know, like the big one, the one that everybody was talking about. One of the genre's biggest stars whose quality has been deteriorating a lot over the years, facing up against one of the most acclaimed and intense artists the genre has to offer and finding themselves completely outmatched. You know what I'm talking about. We're definitely thinking of the same beat.
I feel like Mariah Carey. Got these niggas so obsessed. My pussy so famous might get managed by Kris Jenner next.
In a year where music fans ate rap beef for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Megan Thee Stallion got things started early in the year with an absolutely hammering single in Hiss. This isn't even really a conventional diss track. She actually has quite a bit to say about a lot of people, and a substantial portion of it is really spent bragging and flexing herself, her abilities, and her accomplishments. But the reason it started a major rap beef has everything to do with one single line, and despite everything that came after it, I can't think of a more cutting lyric I heard this year than this one.
Shit gave it to his friend. These hoes don't be mad at Megan. These hoes mad at Megan's law.
The fact that this led to a complete public meltdown from Nicki Minaj and eventually the single worst song, period, of 2024. Plus, it exposed a previously unknown or underestimated drug addiction. Yeah, pretty much cements this as a legendary move for Megan. In a year that will no doubt be remembered for Kendrick and Drake, it's still worth remembering who got things started in 2024. And parlaying off of that, there was clearly quite a bit of venom on the Hot 100 this year. And all of that kind of made me slowly but surely come around to a song that I would have never anticipated landing among my favorites the very first time I heard it. But in between all of the spite and all of the anger, I just started to enjoy hearing this track more and more. End of Beginning definitely scanned as very novel to me the first time I heard it, partially because it came out all the way back in 2022, and also because it's from one of the dudes from Stranger Things. But there really aren't a whole ton of gimmicks here. It's just a sweet, dreamy little pop song about memories and moving on. And even though I have some issues with the production on the song, and I'm not sure the singing is great, I do think that it is a delightful little piece of nostalgia whose emotional impact continued to work on me time and time again. Want to hear the last song to make it onto the list?
Lit ass bitch, step zombie pop shit. Glass full, niggas wrong with that motion.
I liked Chromacopia, but to be completely honest with you, I'm not even sure Sticky would make my top 5 tracks. If a song like Ra-Ta-Ta or Thought I Was Dead had been a huge hit, we may be talking about top 5, if not even higher. But as far as this song goes, I think it's a solid and fun posse cut, and it doesn't really bother me too much that these artists have absolutely no chemistry collectively, because that same feature kind of allows them to each do their own thing.
Sexy in this bitch, taller in this bitch, we talk this fuck. Bitch is mad, but can't be my asshole. Run it up.
And highlighting Sexy Red and Glorilla in 2024 was a great idea, much better than some feature choices that Tyler has made in the past. And they reward him with awesome performances. This is a pretty solid cut. And for the last honorable mention, I'm going to do something that a lot of critics wouldn't.
Maybe in this song, you shouldn't start by saying,
Nigga, I said it, I know that you mad. I've emptied the clip over friendlier jabs. You mentioned my seed and I deal with his dad. I gotta go bad, I gotta go bad.
Don't get me wrong. Kendrick won this beef fairly handedly, if you ask me. But there's a lot of people treating this thing like it's Georgia and TCU, when all along the way, Kendrick made several mistakes that lesser rappers would be eaten alive over. The Haley Joel, Osmond Joel, Austin mix-up on Euphoria is pretty embarrassing, but not as embarrassing as the fact that Kendrick and his entire camp fell for an obviously planted story, though it doesn't really seem like either of these mistakes stuck to Kendrick the way they would stick to almost anyone else. All I'm saying is that if you took the exact same series of events and flipped the two rappers, you would have a lot more people saying that this beef was too close to call. And Family Matters is right at the center of that dilemma, because this is a great fucking diss track.
Don't make it Dave Freeze, cause if your GM is your BM secret BD, then this is all making plenty fucking sense to me.
Unfortunately, much like Duppy Freestyle and Story of Adidon, history kind of repeats itself here, where Drake delivered a pretty solid follow-up and response track only to be classed out immediately by a generational diss track. But to deny the dark murmuring beats, slick transitions, and several laugh-out-loud hilarious jabs that Drake gets in on Family Matters would be doing the song and the beef itself a pretty big disservice. He chooses to correctly drag both J. Cole and Metro Boomin, two of the most embarrassing figures in this entire ordeal, and also gets in a few shots at Dave Free that may not be true, but they're funny. Meanwhile, he gets off two hilarious shots at Kendrick for being short and follows it up with what may be the single funniest line in this entire beef.
Our son should go play at the park. Two light-skinned kids, that shit would be cute. Unless you don't want to be seen with anyone that isn't blacker than you.
And that's that. 5 honorable mentions. Now it's time to get right into the list proper. Starting at number 10. Everything that I just said about Drake is going to make a very specific kind of rap fan upset. But what I'm about to do is make a different, equally specific kind of rap fan even more upset.
Slim, thick, crumble skin, 5'5", this bitch a 10, hair done, bills paid, catch me sliding in the beat.
Sexy Red was the big controversy of 2023 because her keening voice and unapologetically raunchy lyrics made a lot of male hip-hop fans uncomfortable. The kind of male hip-hop fans who are uncomfortable when a woman does anything on a rap song. And this controversy is embarrassingly played out. The same people who were uncomfortable with Sexy Red were cheering from the bleachers when Kanye unpacked his far raunchier sexual fantasies in utterly excruciating detail. What does that tell you about those guys? Rappers have ridden this exact controversy to commercial success before in the past, and it is no guarantee of quality, but in Sexy Red's case, she's been eating it up since she first burst onto the scene. And you want to know what track really sold me on her?
Bend that ass over, let that coochie breathe. Shake that ass, bitch, hands on your knees.
I put Rich Baby Daddy on my best tracks list last year without a hint of irony. I still fucking love that song. And yet, instead of playing hook game for Drake and SZA, this year it was Sexy Red's turn to get one of her infectious, hard-hitting refrains of her own to chart success. And she came in like a goddamn sledgehammer.
Big sexy blood, love the hoes, bounce that ass, touch them toes. Booty shorts, coochie swole, thong all up my booty hole.
I swear to God, there's been at least a few other thoughts in my head throughout 2024, but when I reflect on it, it feels like the chorus of this song has been the only thing I have thought about. Her flexes are just so funny and so pithy, and her energy is so infectious, and her ad-libs are great, and I cannot stop going, bow, bow, bow! And you'd think with how sort of narrow her stylistic approach is that eventually she would run out of ways to say hilarious stuff in a catchy format, but she seems to just have an endless bag of funny lyrics and great hooks in her.
Little me sexy, walking down the street. I don't know what to do cause the niggas after me.
There is nothing important about music that can be gleaned from this song. Trust me, I tried. But in a year where the other big breakthrough rapper of 2023, Ice Spice, showed just how limited her creative lens can be, I'm pretty happy that Sexy Red scored herself a few more hits and seems like she's going to stick around for a while. In fact, she's still on the charts right now. Number 9. I did not do my job for this next entry because I don't have any idea why I like this song so much. Right? Like, that's my job. I'm not just here to tell you what songs I thought were good. I'm here to tell you why, to use my knowledge and perspective to articulate why I did or did not like something, and whether or not you agree with me. If you understand my perspective at the end of it, then I did a good job. I did not do a good job here.
I'll come and slide by 8 p.m. and send a text to your DM.
Even by 2020's pop music standards, this track took a really weird journey to its success. I covered its rise initially as a reporter from a TikTok that asked for songs whose music videos don't match their energy at all, and somebody posted not even a music video but a live performance of this track, and that is how the spark first started. But if that's the springboard that led to this song being popular, I will fucking take it.
You running out of shoes to wear, so I bought you another pair.
Forbats does this pitched up vocal thing that is unique and a little bit novel, but not exactly groundbreaking, and I can't really say anything too special about the lyrics on this song, but despite that, I have been quoting this thing constantly all year long. It's less than 2 minutes in its original format and has one of the most predictable compositions in pop music this year, and yet I just could not help myself but to smile from ear to ear and sing along to every single word the mind-numbing amount of times that I listened to this song in 2024.
I buy you shit because you wear it, and plus because you know I care.
To the surprise of pretty much no one, the eventual album that Forbats dropped was a pretty big disappointment, and like everything in the first half of the year, he ended up caught up in the Drake and Kendrick beef. And now, at this point, at the start of 2025, he feels like a distant memory. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear much from him going forward. But just like Cali last year, it doesn't really bother me that much because it kind of already feels like he's had the moment he was meant to have. And boy, am I glad he did.
So I bought you another pair.
Number 8. It's funny that Sabrina Carpenter's biggest hit of the year was complete and utter nonsense.
So you can't sleep, baby, I know. Does that mean espresso?
And not nonsense like nonsense. I mean actual meaninglessness. Like, I'm pretty sure Espresso is the most word salad pop hit of 2024. I like the song enough, but it feels like a failure to capture what makes Sabrina so interesting as a pop star. She is one of our cleverest writers and one of the funniest performers that pop music has to offer. And all the proof you need is the fact that her album, Short and Sweet, was somehow kind of a laugh riot from front to back. And while its second single, Please Please Me, was closer to the worst list than the best list, eventually, thankfully, we got a Sabrina Carpenter hit that crystallized the year of Sabrina and showed off exactly why she is the breakthrough superstar in pop music in 2024. Thank God.
Put your back together, and if that's true, you'll just have to taste me when he's kissing you.
I absolutely cannot say enough about how valuable it is, how much of a difference it makes for a Sabrina Carpenter song to have a clear thematic through line. This track could have been a really simple breakup song, but instead, Sabrina is framing it as a message to the girl that her now ex was dating before her and has now crawled back to. And Sabrina speaks directly to this woman about all of the ways that she improved the man at the center of this story during their own romantic interlude, and wow, it's fucking hilarious.
He's funny now, all his jokes hit different. Guess who we learned that from?
It's funny that this song is played with such a sunshiny demeanor because there are some cutthroat lyrics here. Both of the verses feature Sabrina just straight up flexing, and she nails it both as a writer and as a singer. But in case you thought she wasn't willing to get down in the mud with everybody else on the bridge, she reveals just how bitter she is about this whole thing, and it's a perfect moment.
Every time you close your eyes and feel his lips, you're feeling mine. And every time you breathe his air, just know I was already there.
In fact, I think this song kind of deserves to be a little bit more dejected. Once you get the full emotional profile of what's going on here, it's kind of a surprise that the song doesn't sound, in some way, at least a little bit grittier. Regardless, I think we're in for a long run of Sabrina Carpenter songs on the best list, and if Espresso was her 7 rings, I'm pretty happy with Taste being her Thank You Next.
You'll just have to taste me when he's kissing you.
Number 7. So how about country music? All right, I know that 95% of my audience does not give a fuck about country music at all. I know that none of you care about the difference between Megan Moroney and Lainey Wilson and Maren Morris and Margot Price, but I bet there was at least one country star this year that you do care about.
This ain't Texas, ain't no hold'em, so lay your cards down, 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 down.
Act 2 of Beyonce's Renaissance trilogy turning out to be a country album seemed to surprise a lot of people, but I think it's actually a decision that makes a whole lot of sense. The album itself is hardly limited by those parameters, though it also features quite a bit of folk and Americana, as well as the pop and R&B instincts that Beyonce has been delivering for decades now. There are moments on Cowboy Carter that hardly even tangentially relate back to country music. That soup of influences kind of all comes together on its lead single, Texas Hold'em, which isn't overwhelmingly one particular style, but it is a good goddamn song.
And I'll be damned if I can't slow dance with you. Come pour some sugar on me, honey, too. It's a real live boogie and a real live hold down.
There's plenty of people who take issue with the goddess cult-like status that Beyonce has taken on as an artistic and creative figure, but God, when you hear songs like this and her charm and charisma and confidence is all just overwhelming, it becomes, well, easy to see why that's the case. Somehow her first truly intentional venture ever into the world of country music manages to deliver an exciting and confident poise that sounds like she's been at this for decades. And now, by the end of the year, we're all left speculating whether she's going to break touring records in 2025 and take home an Album of the Year Grammy in the meantime.
One step to the right, we headed to the dive bar we always thought was nice.
I think this song suffered from overplay more than a lot of other tracks. This year, people I know that loved it right out of the gate have softened on it a little bit, and people who weren't crazy about it at first totally hate it now. And maybe if I made this list 6 months ago, it would be a little higher. But I still just have to reward one of the biggest superstars in music taking a pretty bold artistic risk and it paying off really, really well. I think we just have to wait a few years for some other pop and R&B stars to go trend chasing and try their hands at country music before we really appreciate how good what Beyonce did here really is.
Sologenic, photogenic, shoot.
Number 6. Every year, music changes substantially, and as a result, each one of these lists is kind of its own different undertaking each time I make one. But there is one artist for whom that's not always the case. I'm honestly running out of things to say about SZA. She shows up on the best list every goddamn year, sometimes multiple times, and it's been that way since before this was even a video formatted list. A few years ago, she released one of the best albums of the entire decade so far, which just got a deluxe edition full of tracks that could very well make next year's best list. And for SZA, a song like Saturn is functionally a throwaway, and yet she's so good that this would be the best track of the entire career for most of her contemporaries.
This must be when hell is like this. Got to be more, got to be more.
And once again, it is all about her ability to come off as so astoundingly down to earth. This track sees her confronting feelings of aimlessness and combating the impulse to get stuck in the same looping cycles over and over forever. And she delivers it with a number of extremely relatable and very grounded and occasionally even really funny lyrics, not to mention her incredible as ever vocal performance.
Something we're saving is all for the taking, I always say.
Even without her very best material, SZA delights in every graceful, emotional, and vulnerable moment. Get used to seeing her on the best list. She's not going anywhere.
Dreaming of Saturn.
Number 5. So the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef did kind of dominate hip-hop discourse this year. And again, we'll get there. But I think it also worked to sort of hide just how good of a year it was for several of the most popular women in hip-hop. From weird viral successes to new breakthrough stars to some already existing favorites ascending to an even higher plane of popularity. There was tons and tons of great hit songs from female rappers this year. Want to hear the best one?
He don't wanna be saved, don't save him. That is not my nigga, don't claim him. By 20 missed calls, he faded. White boy wasted, Channing Tatum.
What a year for Glorilla. Oh my God. I mean, it's hard to remember, but 12 months ago, it felt like we were wondering if she would ever capitalize on the momentum of a few of her big features and her breakthrough hit songs. And in the time since then, she released not one, but 2 absolutely killer projects. She firmly established herself as one of the rap game's A-listers, as she just could not miss this year, and none of her songs were better than Wannabe.
Pussy wet, good ass neck, that's me. So I talk how I want. Save a nigga who, bitch, do I look like fucking Superwoman?
There are plenty of rap songs from confident women that effectively put men in their place, but Glorilla goes above and beyond on this one. Her entire verse opens up with this fucking lyric, and the "don't save her" interpolation on the chorus is used perfectly to portray that she is not here to claim some lame-ass man. And again, shout out to Megan Thee Stallion on a great assist. Feature of the fucking year right here.
Female Titan, I'm stepping on bitches, I'm showing my titties. I tore up the city, a PIMP, I be hoeing these niggas. He run back to me cause you born the nigga.
And then the two hand it off on the chorus, and it is just perfection. I really turned on a dime this year from a Glorilla skeptic to a big fan, and I'm really looking forward to what she has in the tank next. It would not surprise me if this is the beginning of a long run of appearances from her, both on the Hot 100 and on my best list. Her energy and intensity alone should propel her to those metrics. Long live Glorilla. Number 4. Want to hear the best pop song of 2024?
If you love me right, then who knows? I might let you make me Juno.
Of all the Sabrina Carpenter tracks so far, Juno is the absolute masterpiece. If you were betting on one of her songs to go down in history as one of these monumental, timeless pop moments, I really think this is the one to choose. And I think it was genuinely one of the best songs I heard this year. But unfortunately, with the other 3 big singles taking up time and space on the radio and on the charts, and Bed Kim, for some reason, being the deep cut that has managed to stick around, Juno was not high enough of a hit to be on this list. Had it been, it would have shot straight up to the top. I'm talking number 1, no doubt. A spot that I'm increasingly convinced Sabrina Carpenter will one day live in. But for now, she's still ceding ground to the pop stars of a previous generation.
Like a fever, like I'm burning alive.
Billie Eilish has been a megastar so long that people forget how young she really is, and I think that's why her finding herself in the public eye this year came as a surprise to so many. She debuted her bisexuality this year with a series of butch outfits and some blackfishing allegations, as well as a lead single to her new album that is straight up just about eating pussy. And don't get me wrong, I love pussy-eating anthems, but I don't think Lunch exactly moved the dial for me. I feel kind of bad about this, but on her new album and a handful of tracks, Billie emerged as a completely reinvented version of herself, and yet I think the standout track from the record is the one that sounds like what she's been making for the past 5 years.
Things fall apart and time breaks your heart.
Billie's bangers have never really clicked with me. I've made that very clear in the past, but her ballads are undefeated, and the fact that Wildflower gets to follow suit after Your Power and Everything I Wanted and What Was I Made For is just awe-inspiring. In fact, What Was I Made For was at the number 4 spot on my list last year, so Billie Eilish could very well just be taking up residence right here. But rather than that song's more general existential angst, Wildflower is achingly literal in both the details of its events and the way it processes them. Billie is singing directly to the ex-girlfriend of a man she dated and is not trying to hide who she's talking about. Just Google why the song is called Wildflower in the first place.
She was crying on my shoulder. All I could do was hold her.
It's funny that the premise of this track is so similar to Sabrina Carpenter's taste, but where that song reveals itself to be pure venom, on this track, Billie Eilish is speaking to the other woman in this scenario as sort of a conduit to express a variety of complicated feelings. On the verses, Billie is interacting with the woman who is this man's ex, consoling her, literally giving her a shoulder to cry on, and then it swells and rises into this dramatic hook, and all of a sudden, Billie is dating the man who caused those very tears, and yet this ex-girlfriend of his is all she can think about. She literally belts out, "I see her in the back of my mind all the time."
I can see her in the back of my mind all the time.
Jesus Christ. I don't even feel emotionally articulate enough to do this song justice. My God. To say I've had my issues with Billie Eilish songs in the past would be an understatement, but at her gentlest, she is able to convey a caliber of emotion that truly and honestly puts her in a league entirely her own.
It hurt me so I kept it to myself.
Number 3. All right. Let's talk about it.
They not like us. They not like us. They not like us.
This beef has been broken down over and over and over again, including by me multiple times, and I have nothing new to add to it. All I can say is to agree with so many other writers that the fact that Not Like Us was one of the biggest hits of the year, an honest-to-God smash hit, is one of the biggest flexes I've ever seen in a rap beef. Diss tracks, for the most part, are insular. Story of Adidon was never going to go platinum. You have to know the rappers, be familiar with them, care about them, and be invested in their conflict to enjoy diss tracks. Or at least you did until Kendrick Lamar made the song of the summer and took a break right in the middle of it to call Drake a pedophile.
Why you trolling like a bitch? Ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor.
And the Kendrick victory lap is very much still ongoing. He used both a concert and a music video to show the love that the city of LA still has for him, eventually following it up with yet another critically acclaimed album, and in just a few weeks, he's gonna call Drake a pedophile at the goddamn Super Bowl. In the grand history of rap diss tracks, this song is not going to go down as the meanest, but it will go down as the biggest. In fact, it's already there, and it's not a novelty either. This is the catchiest goddamn thing I've ever heard. I spent months repeating lyrics from this track like, "Finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton, and not a colleague, you a fucking colonizer." Plus, of course,
And Baka got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boy, certified pedophile.
this song will be remembered until the fucking sun burns out. Centuries after a bar song and Lose Control have become lost media, humanity will still be singing along to Not Like Us. The next golden record they send to space should just be a vinyl copy of this song. It really didn't matter how good Drake's response was. He never stood a chance. Number 2. Every year on this list, there's at least 1 or 2 songs where I feel like I am the only person that actually likes it as much as I do, and that can make it a pretty uphill battle to defend. Normally, they don't land this high on the list. So now I feel even further out of step because this is a track that underperformed as a lead single to a major album release and was eventually overtaken by other songs and singles from the album. It is a track that hasn't become a fan favorite even among the really dedicated fan base that this artist has, and in fact, its most notable thing is sounding exactly like a better hit song from 30 years ago. But what can I say? I love Madonna. And don't get me wrong, I understand why Yes and wasn't a massive hit. It's a weirdly innocuous song to kick off such a major album release, a record that has a really important, really dynamic thematic through line to it, and yet you could not gauge any of that just from listening to Yes and. It also had a deeply strange music video, and not strange in like the interesting viral kind of way, strange in that it was objectively a turnoff. So don't confuse my defense of this song with a defense of the release and promotion of it, because this song is fucking amazing.
Boy, come on, put your lipstick on. No one can tell you. Come on and walk this way through the fire.
In my extremely long legacy of saying and doing Twinkie things on the internet, I think I'm about to one-up myself when I say that there was no song in 2024 that got me as hype as this. It takes this slow, dancey build-up with the instrumental in the very beginning, just like Vogue does, and executes it flawlessly. Twice this year, I nearly crashed my fucking car vibing to the point where the drums kick in the beginning of this song, and all I can say is that I wish I had almost crashed it even more. I have always said that Ariana Grande's artistic confidence is extremely underrated, and that is once again perfectly on display here. In fact, it reminds me of a different Ariana Grande lead single, that being No Tears Left to Cry, except instead of moving on from a very specific event, Ariana is giving everyone the advice they need to deal with the way that everything in the entire world is all the time. And in retrospect, looking back on 2024, there's a lot more times that I wish I had said yes and.
Say that shit with your chest. Keep moving, what's next? Yes.
The Vogue worship really comes to a head on the bridge of this track, where Ariana Grande strips it back and delivers this focused, confident spoken word passage. And at this point in the song, I am just eating directly out of the palm of her hands. It is so good.
Don't comment on my body, do not reply. Your business is yours, and mine is mine.
I have made it a lifelong journey of mine to teach other people currently in their early 20s how good Madonna was in her prime. And wow, did Ariana Grande just make that a lot easier by doing a flawless impression. When the song underperformed, there were people musing on whether or not Ariana Grande's time in the brightest spotlight of popular culture was over. It isn't.
You're gonna be popular.
She has it. That intangible mystique and aura that so many failed pop stars have been unable to achieve and maintain, Ariana Grande has it. And it's never going away. Number 1. If I was good at this whole being a YouTuber, talking about music on the internet thing, I wouldn't do what I'm about to do. My pick for number 1 would be something surprising, something dramatic, either a really hot take or just a unique way to praise one of the most critically acclaimed songs to hit pop music this year. And yet instead, welcome to the anticlimax. I have this fucked up drive in my head to be unwaveringly honest in my assessment of art, even when it's challenging and especially when it is fucking boring. And that is what leads us to moments like this. My favorite song of 2024 comes from a country artist, which I know most of you don't give a shit about at all. It comes from a guy who's pretty controversial. Despite the critical acclaim, he seems to be in near constant hot water on Twitter and even at his own shows. And lamest of fucking all, he's the same guy that topped my list last year. It's Zach Bryan's World, and I guess we're just living in it.
You took a train to the south side of Boston. You showed me where your old man stayed.
For the 3rd year in a row, Zach Bryan is making an appearance on the best list, and for the second year in a row, he is occupying the number 1 spot. Last year, Hey Driver was my song of the year, an absolute soaring, rootsy jam made in the image of so many rambling folk songs of years past, and that's not what 28 is. By comparison, this is a far more grounded, personal, and challenging song to listen to and to understand. But in every creaking word, every regionally specific turn of phrase, and every reverberating piano key of this song, there is excellence.
When did McGlinchey's get so crowded, and why are the crowds so damn great?
It's always interesting to watch the broader music community react to Zach Bryan's flaws when they are aired out in the public eye, because he's certainly never been one to shy away from them on his own music, and you can really tell how few people have heard his 2020 album Elizabeth. That vulnerability has never left his music and his songwriting, and perhaps in a slightly sickening way, that allows his triumphs to soar even higher, to hit an even greater emotional peak. Like, for example, on his last album, the depths of pain he experienced during his time in the army set up for the chorus of East Side of Sorrow, one of the most emotionally stunning musical moments I've ever heard in my entire life.
He said the sun's gonna rise tomorrow, somewhere on the east side of sorrow.
And that works again this time. Even better on 28. Look at these opening lyrics. In such a short time, Zach manages to communicate so much about the girl he loves, how happy he is that she is sharing her own self and experiences with him, and how long he has waited to feel something just like this. And once the song erupts into its chorus and he wails out, "How lucky are we?" Flawless. No notes. Best musical moment of 2024.
How lucky are we? It's been a hell of a week. We're all grown now.
Folk and country songs are no stranger to conjuring regionally specific motifs, and I'm not trying to give him credit just for mentioning Philly and Boston. But without really needing to latch on to too many specific details, he manages to give these places an achingly physical sensation, one that allows the two similarly sounding verses to feel so stylistically distinct. And he ends the song off with the same lyrics that it opens up with, but the entire journey of the song emotionally added to the weight of what he has to say, and with just a few extra lyrics, he manages to make one of the most overwhelming emotional punches of the year, and it's just a perfect way to end things.
You took a train to the south side of Boston. You showed me where your whole heart stayed.
For the second year in a row, this is not my number 1 song because it represents any kind of trend or development. Country music is hot right now, but Zach Bryan certainly is not the beating heart of the genre commercially, and he's a little bit too jagged and controversial to really ever ascend to super stardom. No, it's purely for one reason. I just think this is the best hit song of the year. And it's not like last year where Olivia Rodrigo and SZA made tracks that really easily could have been my number 1. Frankly, in 2024, I don't think it was even close. Zach Bryan, for better or for worse, has become my favorite figure in all of popular music. And that's really just all there is to it.
Years of blood pumping through me to feel loved on my own birthday.
And that is all I have for you, angels. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching the worst hits video that preceded it, and any and all of my content that you watched or read or consumed in any capacity in 2024. It was a delightful year to be doing this. And there's a lot to look forward to in 2025, specifically to do with this, with writing about music. And maybe not a whole ton else. But that's okay. That's why we do it. And I hope that you will continue to watch and participate in that process because it's delightful. Kisses.